um corset. I wanted to talk about
Oh,
how
Cosette.
corset. Did I say corset?
You did. Hey,
Corset.
everybody. Welcome to our live recording of a Stacking Adventures podcast. She's Crystal.
Cheers, and I'm Joe. I didn't even see record pressed.
And both of us have had a long day,
Mm-hmm.
which means it's going to be fun to nerd out on some travel
I know. Why don't we have drinks?
with you guys. We totally should have. Do you want to?
No.
Oh, I was going to go get one. I was like, I will go get one. Are you daring me? Because I will start.
We can have a little happy hour.
I am having friends over tonight.
Ah,
So, yes, an early birthday celebration,
okay.
which is fun. Cheryl's making some spaghetti, and we're gonna play
Oh.
this game called sommelier, sommelier,
Oh.
I can't.
Sommelier.
Yeah, sommelier.
I
Uh,
I played a new game. I've totally forgot to tell you. I'm looking up the name, and I won too.
wow. All right. High five.
Cheers. Wait, let me get the
So
name.
while you're looking that up,
Oh,
Crystal, my
Medici?
you played Medici.
Yes, and I won. It's my
Did
first time
where
playing.
you're trying to load your boat with the different goods.
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Spices. I was spices. Spices and the potions one is the one that gave me my points.
that's a great game.
Yeah,
That
that was
game's a classic.
yes.
I have it sitting right over there, actually.
Ah,
That's funny. All right, next time we're together, we'll play Medici.
okay.
It's easy, isn't it?
It
It's an easy
is
game.
because I walked right in and picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a super game. I played a game last night too called Quantum
Okay.
with my good friend Mike's son is trying to design a game. And he's like, "Do you have a good war game for four people
Oh.
that's kind of short?" I'm like, "Yes." So we played a game called Quantum. It's
Huh.
neat. But anyway, so um, oh, this game, it's called Summify. And what happens is everybody brings a bottle of wine
Mhm.
and you put a bag around it. You put a bag around it and you don't show it to anybody. And then everybody gets a little taste test. And then you taste it and you roll a die and you move, but you get to points on the board and you're like, okay, do you think it's old world or do you think it's new world? Do you think it's from here? Do you
Oh,
think it's
I
from
didn't
there? Do you
know
think
that.
it's this or do you think it's that? And
Okay.
so when you get to the end, you make a guess after you've been given some clues by the person who has the wine.
Mhm.
First person that guesses what type of wine it is and what area it's from wins. But the funny thing is, I played this game a few times. Everybody loves it. It's generally pretty random who wins, and you all get kind of drunk. So
It's a drinking game
it
without
totally is a drinking game.
the immaturity, I guess. It's a
Yeah,
mature.
and you end up we're going to end up tonight with one, two, three, four bottles of, quarter of the bottle's been drank of wine, and then everybody just kind of has more of their favorite ones later. It's
Ah,
pretty fun.
can reserve the bub like the rest of this bottle's for me.
I know,
Thank you.
right? That's mine. Well, it's the way I like to drink wine anyway, with a paper bag around it. So,
That's even funnier too. Like paper bag.
yeah. Welcome to Redneck, West Michigan. All right. Let me pull up um, YouTube just in case anybody happens to be on the YouTube
Room
machine with us
chat on the
today,
machine.
hanging out. Man, my
I don't
internet is
see any chats
crawling.
yet. Well, we have wind. Like it's like 30-mile-per-hour wind today.
Wow.
So I'm getting breakage in my connection.
We
Breakage.
have cold. As soon as this is done, I'm going to go make a fire in my fireplace.
Oh, it's warm here. It's 48. We had three, no, we had 6.3 inches of snow 2 days ago, and it's 40
Wow.
in the 40s today.
Oh, I
So
saw you posting
it's
about
like,
that.
hey, you guys, don't shovel because the sun's coming. The 40s are coming.
It'll shovel for you.
It'll
It'll
take care of itself. It's a self-cleaning snow.
perfect. That's great. We don't have any snow. I got my fill of snow though. Well, we'll talk about that. All right. We ready to do this?
Oh, yes.
Okay, everybody. Hang out and enjoy today's show.
Sit back and relax.
3, 2, 1. Crystal, our recent guest, Libby Gifford, Remember Libby?
Yes, how could I forget? It was
She
what, 2 weeks
said
ago?
Olympic National Park was her favorite park. Remember that?
Yep. Yes, she did.
And I just got back from there. You want to hear about it?
Do I have a choice?
She's like, oh God, no.
Of course I do. Tell me more.
Well, from mountaintops to beaches and little coffee spots to national park lodges, today we dive deeper into Olympic National Park.
I hit the like button on that. And at the end of this episode and every episode, you will hear our gear of the day pick. If you're looking for best in class gear that's worth the price, head to our Amazon page at stackingadventures.com/GOTD, gear of the day. You'll help the show and you'll help yourself adventure better and for less money.
And the music comes in, announcer guy comes in. Welcome to Stacking Adventures Podcast.
Oh,
I do his voice pretty good.
you did. I give it a 3 stars.
So thank you. I think closer to 2, but you're very
3
generous.
star, but like a restaurant, they gave me a dirty fork. You're getting 3 stars. 2 stars.
Immediately. Oh, dirty fork.
Yikes.
Oh. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Stacking Adventures podcast. She's Crystal.
And I'm Joe. Just kidding. He's Joe, in case you hadn't
And
noticed. I threw my
today,
voice.
we are headed back to a park that I gone to before. I was trying to figure this out, Crystal. Nick, my son, has been in Seattle for 7 years, and I think we went the first year he was there, so I went 7 years ago. The problem is I don't remember much about going to this park, and you know why? Because we tried to day trip it. That's why. This is a huge park. Libby, when she was here a couple of weeks ago, said the biggest mistake people make is they try to do it in one day. And I remember Cheryl wanted to go to this one spot called the whole rainforest, which was beautiful. I do remember it being beautiful, but I also remember being stressed out. I think we got back to Seattle about 3:00 in the morning.
Whoa.
Oh, it was horrible. And I remember just being stressed. So we drove a lot and I was stressed because this park is huge and we tried to day trip it. But
That's
this time
okay.
we went for 2 days. So Crystal, let's dive in. What do you want to know?
Well, first, I hate it when people, I don't say hate it, but like I feel like I owe an apology to people who've come to visit me when I first moved to a place because you said you went right when your son first moved there. He doesn't know anything, right, about the area yet. So I even want to hear about going back 7 years later of what was one of the lessons that you learned about, well, besides the don't try to do it in one day.
We figured out first, I think, we knew that it was going to be a long way. Um, and we also knew this time we weren't going to see everything. So we knew it was going to be a greatest hits and we're still going to have to go back again and again and again. And I'm okay with that because this is an amazing park. But when we left, we were staying in a suburb called Bellevue, which is east of Seattle, and Olympic National Park is west of Seattle. So we're going to have to go through downtown Seattle to the ferry. You don't have to take the ferry, Crystal, but it
Mhm.
takes off about 40 minutes. And when you're trying to do it in a couple days, every 40 minutes matters. So
Yeah. So
we,
after you fly in, you rent a car.
yep. And then, well, for this thing, we stayed in Bellevue because I was speaking at this thing called Retire Meet.
Okay.
So I was at a retirement planning conference. We wake up in this hotel at 5:30. No, we woke up at 5. We were on the road at 5:30. We get to the ferry at 10 minutes to 6. It's going to take us to a place called Bainbridge Island. Now, Bainbridge is barely an island. On one side, it looks like a series of rivers because it's right up against the coast. But it definitely is a shortcut versus going all the way around Puget Sound to get, or to the next bridge anyway, to get over back to the mainland across the sound. It takes about 35 minutes to take the ferry. I actually looked this up because I forgot what it cost. For adults, it's $8.50. There are fares for seniors and children, which are half price, only $4.25. Children 5 and under ride free. We didn't realize, by the way, that we needed a second ticket for me. We thought that there was just going to be a ticket for our car because we taken our car on the ferry. We got there about 10 minutes early. The ferry at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning was only half full. So there wasn't any rush to make obviously you got to get there by the time the ferry leaves, or it's going to just leave without you. This thing's on a
Oh, yeah,
very
they
strict
don't
schedule.
wait. I wouldn't
Yeah,
expect that.
no, but don't worry about being, not getting on the ferry. Even though you have a ticket, you can pre-buy your ticket. That's what we did. There was plenty of room for a lot more cars at 6 a.m. But it took about 35 minutes to
Mm.
cross. Oh, and I forgot to say, if we would have gone back this way, which we didn't do, we made a big circle of the park. We went around the south side to Tacoma. So we started off on the north side and then around by the beaches and Pacific Ocean, and then curled around through a town called Aberdeen, and then Olympia, where we had dinner, and then Tacoma, and then back up and stayed at a Fairfield Inn by the airport the next day.
Wow.
But if we were going back that way, Crystal, it would have been free to take the ferry back. So the ferry you pay one way, and then it's free on the return trip.
Oh, cool. Okay, so after the ferry, you paint the picture, right? And that's cool. You have the card too. So do you know where you're going?
I do. Well, our first stop was going to be breakfast, right? Because we woke up so early. So we wanted a great breakfast place. What is hilarious is I forgot where we had eaten breakfast 7 years ago. I go
No.
to I go to TripAdvisor, and we end up going to the same exact restaurant,
Nuh-uh.
which I generally don't like, going to the same restaurant. But in this case, I really, really liked it. In fact, it's funny.
Huh.
I did forget to pull this up, so I'm going to try to do it now.
And 7 years
Um,
ago, because you can even use Google Maps and it'll tell you where you went. I have my Google timeline on. Oh, which I turned make sure I turned it back on. Um, let's see, where did it go to for my Google Maps? It'll
I found
if you activate timeline, it'll tell you everywhere you went. Like even today, it'll be like, "Oh, you were walking. Oh, you hopped on a train. Oh, you were in a car."
and I made a bad mistake, which is I didn't have any of that location stuff turned on
Ah.
when I first did it, which was a big mistake because now I go back through the pictures and I'm trying to put the pictures in the place that I was. I should have done it way earlier. I had 50 people tell me to do it, and I never did it.
And I share
Uh,
my
th- th-
location with a friend too, just
oh
so
well, of
they can
course,
know where I am all the time. But and then
for
also for
safety.
remembering. The first time I used it, totally unrelated while you're looking for that, for doctor visits, because I was entering to get my, FSA reimbursement, and so I needed to know, like, which days I went and the mileage, because I was claiming mileage too, because you can claim however many cents per mile for going to doctor's visits if you didn't know that on your HSA. So that's actually the reason that I first turned on the timeline, to
That's
remember
funny.
back.
What an obscure reason. I mean, really, of all
Yeah.
the reasons. I found this place in Port Angeles. Port Angeles is it's a small town. It is where the ranger station is, and where you can get supplies, ask the ranger stuff, get maps, visit. They have a little, really tiny one-room museum, just kind of introducing you to the park.
Mm.
Libby said a couple weeks ago that place is not very good, but it was the only one that was open because it was in January. But before we went there,
Oh,
we went to this little tiny Greasy Spoon restaurant called the First Street Haven Restaurant. It has the most reviews of any of the cafes in Port Angeles for breakfast. 501 reviews. It's rated 4.5 out of 5. It
oh,
is it
good.
is completely crystal. A little tiny, tiny Greasy Spoon. This
Nice.
place is super, super, super tiny. Let's see if I can share my screen for everybody who's just hanging out with us on.
So is greasy spoon equal to hole in the wall?
It is,
Okay, because I
yes,
love that.
very,
Love
very,
a good hole in the wall.
very much like a hole in the wall restaurant. Let's see if I can make those
Oh,
pictures.
I'm a Benny kind of gal. I love Benedict, but I like this. My favorite is a steak Benedict
It's a little
or
tiny, tiny
brisket
restaurant. I wish
Benedict.
there was more pictures here. You can see how good the food is.
Oh, that does.
Um, but it is very small. Every time anybody opened up the door, it was freezing inside of there. It was very cold
Oh,
outside. It was
one of those.
snowing when we got there.
Mhm.
There is just a
Oh,
long
man.
counter and a few tables. The waitress tells you to seat herself. It was fast. It was straightforward. So really, really good time at the uh, at the Haven Diner restaurant. But then
Yeah.
we went to the ranger station, and we talked to the ranger because we wanted to go up on a drive I remember that we had done before, which was called Hurricane Ridge.
Mhm.
In the middle of Olympic National Park, Crystal, there's this series of mountains, the biggest one being Mount Olympus. And but they're beautiful, and they're all snow capped, and they're just in this row, and it's just this beautiful, beautiful ridge of mountains. The funny thing is there are no roads in the middle of Olympic National Park. They still haven't put any roads through it. So you can go
Good.
up to this ridge to look out at the mountains. You can hike into the wilderness, but it is wilderness out there still to this day.
Mm.
What's amazing is the road that goes up to the ridge overlook is the same route that the first explorers took. That went there. Of course, the Native Americans had already been there, knew the region, but the first Europeans to go there actually went up this up this ridge. And the way I heard the story, it took them over a month
Wow.
to make it to the end of Hurricane Ridge Road, where you can look out over the beautiful mountains from a high perch. What's funny is it takes now about 25 minutes
Ah.
to drive that road what took them a month to go. That road, though, the guy told us because we didn't have chains for our car and we
Mhm.
were there in the winter, we shouldn't go because it was steep enough that your car could literally just slide off the road.
Ow.
And then I'm in an Avis rental car. Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
It got
Ye
dark.
Yeah. The sunset very
Uh, I thought
early in
all
the
of your power
morning.
went out. I'm like, Crystal, you got to pay your bills.
No, I refuse.
Yeah. I don't know the power company
You have to
anything.
come get it.
So we didn't do Hurricane Ridge Road. The way I remember it the first time, it was snowy, it was pretty, it was mountains, but it definitely wasn't my favorite part of the park. So we were okay missing it. We'll go there next time. If we can go up there and hike maybe a little bit around the mountains, that would be a lot of fun. But we didn't do any of that. What we did do instead, we drove out by a beautiful lake called Crescent Lake.
Mhm.
Crescent Lake is just there are two amazing lakes near the north side. There's Crescent Lake, and then the south side of this huge park is Quinault Lake. And we spent a lot of time at Quinault Lake on day two, so I'll talk about that later. But at Crescent Lake, there's a bunch of there. There's a bunch of hiking trails. There are a couple of great waterfalls. One of the waterfall roads was closed. The other one, it was going to be about an hour and a half drive. And we didn't want to do that because working with the park ranger, this was cool, Crystal, and I'd never done this before. And Cheryl and I decided that we should ask the ranger about other stuff to do, even if it has nothing to do with the park.
Mhm.
We said, "What should you visit?" And he said, "We should visit the most northwest point of the United States, which is not in the national park. It's actually part of a reservation, and so our goal was to go and stand in the spot where we
Yeah.
were at the northwest most part of the lake. But anyway, back to Crescent Lake. Crescent Lake is the most beautiful lake to drive around. On one side, there's a bunch of mountains. On the other side is just the road up against other mountains. So I got mountains on one side, steep cliffs, and on the other side, I've got just beautiful views of the lake. And it's a long lake. I'm not sure exactly how long, but man,
It's a
if
nice
you're gonna
drive.
go there, yeah, if you're gonna go there, you definitely want to go and drive Crescent Lake. And
So
I'm
you're
gonna
not
bring
out the
this up.
car yet, okay.
We got out of the
Well, you
car
ate.
just at the Yeah, we got out of the car just for breakfast and at the for the park rangers. I also gassed up because this is a
Mhm.
huge park and I didn't want to run out of gas in the middle of nowhere. There's a town called Forks right in the middle of the park, but I know that these little towns
They
Crystal, it's going to be a
closed,
bajillion
right?
dollars for gas, or it's
Oh,
going to be
that
closed,
too.
right? Good point. Good point. So let me show you images
The lake.
of Crystal Lake.
Crescent.
Here we go.
Lake Crystal.
Crescent Lake. Yes. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
Well, and I wish I could see these bigger. There we go. This is what we want. If my computer ever brings it up.
It's thinking. It's rebelling. It's refusing.
Yeah, can you see that?
Just still small, but it's
It's still
beautiful.
tiny.
Yeah.
But it's not okay. It isn't.
All the pictures
It
are
isn't going to
nice.
show because it's just looking at that tab.
Okay.
Um, yeah, there's a view from up high. There's another view. You can see there's just nothing around.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is just surrounded by beauty. Driving around this thing, you feel your blood pressure go down
Oh, that's
immediately.
what I
There is a Crescent Lake Lodge, and we went there last time we went 7 years ago. The food was absolutely horrible, but the views were amazing.
darn.
Um,
I wonder how
so
many friends
it
they
was a
had. Not many.
it was a nice place to go. So then we drive another 45 minutes before we actually have our first real hike, Crystal, which
Okay.
is at Cape Flattery.
We're
And
working off
Cape
our bucket list
Flattery,
now. Okay.
yeah, finally.
Well,
And Cape
if I were Cheryl,
Flattery,
I'd be asleep because it sounds so serene and peaceful.
oh, you know what's funny is that she would have been asleep if the views weren't so beautiful.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the views are
true. You
just
just don't wanna
absolutely
miss a
gorgeous.
thing in my Aerosmith voice. Yeah.
And they just kept coming. So Cape Flattery's on the Maka and I hope I pronounced that right. Makah Indian Reservation. The park is punctuated by Indian reservations. The
Mhm.
Hoh Reservation, the Kinnaud Reservation, uh, the Kalalak. Uh, so all of these Indian reservations, but Cape Flattery is the Maka Indian Reservation. It was $20 to go to Cape Flattery and be on the trail. You know what? It was so beautiful out there, and just supporting
Yeah.
the locals that keep this up. I definitely thought it was a good use of money. The cool thing about that $20, it lasts a full year. So the woman wrote her initials on it,
Oh,
and
cool.
then she handed it back to me, and I actually have the thing.
And it's for the car, right? Not
That's
for
right.
yeah.
Yep. I have here's my pass. And so I'm actually going to send this to my son, so that he can take the car. And it's funny because it says license number and
Oh,
rental
yeah.
car, so
Ah,
I can get another car in, which is great because we go out and there's all these beautiful views. The coast is really rocky here, and there's lots of formations out in the water. So these little, high cliffs. High cliff islands where it feels like around it the land had just broken away from the mainland because
yeah.
they just kind of jut out of the ocean. um, and it's really cool. It kind of reminds me of when I was in Indonesia and there were just little islands all over the place, or even if you're when you were in Puerto Rico, I think, you can see some of the other little
Oh,
islands
yeah. The
around.
big yeah.
Yeah, much like that. So we go out to the end and we can see Canada to the north, um, and Victoria. I think it's Victoria Island we were actually looking at across this big wide channel. There was also one island in the United States that was off the coast that actually had a lighthouse, an old lighthouse on it,
Hmm.
that looked like it wasn't manned. I'm not sure if it was manned or not. But what was cool was there was a bunch of driftwood floating in the water because there's so many trees that the trees die and they fall in the water, and there's tons of driftwood. In the driftwood, though, was a sea lion.
Huh.
And the sea lion was bobbing around and swimming around. And
Interesting.
Yeah, we finally lost him, but that was our first wildlife that we saw was the sea lion. So
Well, do you wanna see live wildlife
I
unless it's
de-
like a bird?
I definitely do. You don't want to see.
I don't wanna cross its path. Yeah, like, far away, sea lion, yeah.
I don't want to see a bear.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
or
I
a
don't want to see a
wildcat.
shark.
Um, are you doing a guided tour hike? Or are you pretty
No, it
versed
was
in
it was
hiking?
really easy to follow the trail. Great
Oh, okay.
question. Really easy to follow, but no guides on anything that we did.
Oh,
Libby actually gave us great tips. If any of our adventurers want tips, if you're headed there, like write to me and I'll just write you a few notes or go to our
or in the
Clubhouse
book,
Facebook page
yeah, Facebook.
and I'll definitely help you. So then we got back in the car and now the Super Bowl had actually started. Thank God, by the
Oh.
way, I missed the Super Bowl. That was horrible.
It was a good game.
We had to make it to the beaches. Now, the last time that I was at Olympic National Park, the beaches were not really on my radar. I'm like, these are mountains. You know what, though, Crystal? It i- it isn't just mountains. It's actually the beaches are for me now one of the central parts of this national park. Like it was so cool. So we go to this place, Rialto Beach. And when you go out there, there's all these rock formations, and one is called Hole in the Wall. And it's about a mile and a half walk to Hole in the Wall. But when you get down there, it's just a hole in a rock formation that you can climb through as long as it's close to low tide. And on Libby's recommendation, we got out there about an hour and a half before low tide. And she recommended we do this thing called tide pooling, which I think, did she talk to us about that on the show?
I think so.
Yeah, your microphone's not working.
Oh,
You might have to leave and come back.
okay, darn it. Testing. Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but
Sorry.
hit your microphone.
Pooling.
No, hit your microphone. Nope.
Oh, nope. All right, leave again. Leave studio.
This is the way the pros do it, everybody.
Okay.
There
Is
you
that
go.
it? Okay. That was
Yes.
weird. Yeah, now I
All
see
right.
the
3, 2, 1. So tide pooling for people that missed Libby's excellent episode. Tide pooling is walking around these rocky areas where water gets trapped as the tide goes out, and now you have these little pools where life is supposedly swimming. Well, what's funny is
Mm,
that when Cheryl and I get to these tide pools and we start walking on these rocks, and these rocks are a little treacherous. Like you've got to make sure if you don't have very good balance, you got to be
yeah.
very careful because it would be easy to slip. But we're looking down in these tide pools and we do this for maybe 15 minutes. And Cheryl goes, well, this is a whole bag of nothing. And about 2 minutes later, like right after she said that, Crystal, we hit the freaking lottery. Like, and you know what? It isn't the lottery. Just keep looking
Oh.
because we start seeing these sea anemones. We see starfish,
Oh, wow.
all kinds of different starfish, hermit crabs. At first, I see these shells, and Cheryl goes, "Oh, look at the shells!" And I said, "No, I think those are snails, and I think they're alive." She's like, "No way!" I pick one up and I turn it over, and there's a snail living in the shell. You can just see the bottom of the snail. So I put the snail down, but then we're looking at these other shells that are a little bigger, and the
Yeah.
shells start moving, and you can see the feet, and these are
Yeah,
hermit
those look
crabs.
cool.
Yeah, the cool hermit crabs,
And
and
then the
some of
ones
them
that
are
walk sideways too.
they're fighting all over each other. Yeah, well, they're just bumping into each other because they got
Yeah.
this, they got this shell on top of them. And So it was really cool. And we ended up staying out there for maybe an hour and a half, just lost in
Yeah.
these tide pools. I was a week younger than I was today when I realized how damn fun tide pooling is. Like,
Huh.
if you said, "Hey, I know this place near Washington, D.C., and I'm visiting you," and you're like, "I know this place and there's tide pools out by the ocean," I'm like, "Let's go right now.
We
Let's
don't have an
go right now."
ocean. We got the Chesapeake Bay. We got the Potomac.
Yeah. Well,
I'll have to see if we have any.
what
I
do you
don't
got? 2
know.
hours, 3 hour drive to the
Oh,
ocean?
right, right, right.
Yeah. I mean, we could get there, but who knows? Anyway,
Huh.
tide
Tide
pooling,
pooling.
super, super neat. Great time. And we did that until it was almost sundown. And then we walked back toward our car about the mile and a half back and watched the sun go down though, there at the, right on the
Beautiful.
beach across the Pacific Ocean. There's something a little maudlin about watching the sun go down over the Pacific Ocean. Something a little sad,
Well, it
like you're
never gets old. So you stayed out, like, were you pacing yourself to be back? Because don't they close at sundown, all the trails?
Great question. I don't know. I would think so, that they
Breaking
probably
the
do.
law?
But we were actually pacing ourselves to make sure that we did that. And I knew that it was only going to be a short, maybe 75-minute ride, to short, over an hour ride
Right.
to our lodge, which was a beach further down called now it looks like Kalaloch Lodge, Kaloloch.
Mhm.
But the guy at the front desk named Grant said to us, it's pronounced Kalaloch.
Klalock.
So it's like CL instead of CAL. It's like CL, Kalaloch
Klalock.
Lodge. This is a
I'll
lodge that
klalock
is
you.
right in the national park, right next door to the campground. Libby actually told me, she's like, "You're going to like that lodge." They have food there, a restaurant called the Creekside Restaurant inside of it. We actually grab our bags. We're exhausted now just from being in the
Mhm.
car all day. And we did, the couple of hikes. I probably hiked about 5 or 6 miles that day.
Did
And
breakfast hold you?
what's that?
Did breakfast hold you all that time?
Yes, we grabbed from a market. We grabbed
Okay.
from a market some snacks for the day.
Okay.
At the beginning, very, very beginning of the day,
Okay, good.
grab some
Okay.
snacks. I forgot to mention that, but yes, it did. And we were, by this time, as you can imagine, though,
Oh,
still
yeah,
kind of hungry.
famished.
Yeah. So we get there, it's after dark. We haul our bags in, and this guy, Grant, at the front desk, it's this beautiful little lodge, goes, "Well, since you brought your bags in, would you like me to change your room to this lodge versus the lodge that you actually booked?"
Oh my goodness.
Which it turns out at Kalaloch
That's
Lodge, there's
funny.
two different lodges, one which is the main lodge, and another one that doesn't have any Wi-Fi. I hadn't
Oh.
done the Stacking Benjamins podcast yet. I had it about half finished, and I need to finish listening to it and upload it. So I'm like, no, I need Wi-Fi, or nobody's going to hear the show tomorrow. So they upgraded us to like the daddy-o room, like the best room in the
Wow.
lodge
They
for
were like,
no.
"Did you say Stacking Benjamins?" Your name
Apparently
dropped.
I know who you are. Yeah, sure.
They're like, "We
Uh,
thought you were Michael Keaton."
so that was really cool. We went downstairs to the Creekside restaurant. Libby had told me that restaurant wasn't very good. Listen, at the end of the day, I don't care if it is Gordon Food Service, regular food that you'll get in any cafeteria, which it was. The hamburger was $19, which was ridiculous.
Oh,
Hamburgers and fries.
yeah.
Cheryl also had a hamburger, but she substituted it for a salad, which they did at no additional fee. I had a beer, which was, like $7. So
Steep prices, yeah.
yeah, so it was pretty pricey and it was pretty bland food, but I got to tell you, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
where we saw as much beauty, I liked it. I was
Yeah.
like,
Listen, I had a fruit bar that would tasted like a steak because I was so hungry. I was like, "Oh, this
right?
steak is delicious."
It's like that Eddie Murphy bit,
Oh,
old
the
Eddie Murphy bit, where he's
saltines.
like, "Yeah, is this cracker Ritz? If you haven't had it in a long time, every
You
cracker's a
lick your
Ritz."
fingers. Oh, yeah, all of that.
So, so we because we had this huge, beautiful room
Nice.
with huge windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean. The next day, we
Oh,
just kind of dawdled for a while, Crystal, and sat and played. I brought a couple little two-player card games with us, and we sat at this table and had coffees and looked out the window while we played some cards in the morning before we got on the road.
ah,
The second day, we actually visited the rest of the beaches. And
okay.
you know what? I'm going to turn the music up right here, right now, because we can call this the halfway point.
Ah, yes. How could I forget?
It's time for
I'm
our
like
gear.
enamored.
Okay, time for our gear of the day. I feel
Yeah.
like, normally I talk a lot, but holy
I know.
cow.
I think the listeners are like, is he going to stop talking? I didn't even
Does this guy
notice.
breathe?
He does.
At the gear of the day is our midway point pit stop. Thank goodness, because Crystal's going to talk for a little bit now. On the
Yes.
pit stop, you're always dreaming about what the end of the adventure is, how cool it'll be when we get there. It's always a hint of our gear of the day. Crystal will tell us what that is at the end of the day. So, what's
What's
our
the
hint?
hint? So the hint is this gear is so good, I don't even need to have it because I can't find it. I can never find mine. I always forget it. And then when you're at the airport, you remember, oh man, I forgot it. Should I buy another one? And you're like, yep. And I usually buy another one. So I have like 4 or 5 of these gears,
I know
which
exactly what it
makes
is.
me so mad.
I do
I
the
think
same
every
thing.
yeah, it's and then you're like, I cannot travel without it. But yet it's probably the most forgotten thing. They could probably charge as much as they want, which they kind of do at
They
the
kind of do.
airports because people forget it. I think you already know what it is.
I think I might.
You
We're going
may
to take a
not.
break now,
Yeah.
and I'll tell you right after our break what my guess is. All right, three, two, one.
I can't believe we haven't even covered this yet. Because you know why? Because it's so easy to forget.
You,
That's
you said
why.
that you said that when we were prepping, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And now I know exactly what you're talking. Yes.
Exactly.
So this is, don't tell me if I'm
I'm
right, but I
not.
think it's
I'm
your
not.
phone charger. I think it's your charging cord.
Oh,
I think it's your charging
interesting.
cord. Oh, maybe not. Look at
Very
you.
interesting guess.
Well,
Huh.
we will find out later. All right. Do you want to tell me what I did the second half of the trip?
You tell me.
Okay, fine.
Let me guess. You took a nap and you missed the whole second day and you were like, "Oh man, now it's time to leave."
That's it. We are done. I should tell you a little bit about the Kalaloch Lodge, about the pricing, because I did
Oh
look at the
yeah.
price. I did look at the price of the lodge, Crystal, so that people have an idea. $242 a night. That's during the off season. I'm sure it's more during the on season. 242 bucks to stay in a room overlooking the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, and that's the one with the Wi-Fi?
That's it, and that's well, we paid for one that didn't have Wi-Fi and got
Right.
upgraded, so I don't know.
Okay.
But even if you would have been in our old lodge, that was right across the street from the main lodge, and we would have still been right at the beach, like
Well,
right there.
and which also says a lot for the other one that the no Wi-Fi because you go to nature to disconnect, right?
You totally do.
Not
Yes.
edit shows, right?
Not yes. I wish I not been doing this speaking gig for
Right.
3
Yeah. Oh,
days
right. Duh. You
before
were.
in Seattle, I would have
True.
totally had it already done. Because I do not like taking work with me. So we continued just by walking up the road to get onto Kalak Beach. The lodge is up on a cliff a little bit, and so getting down to the beach was kind of hard. In fact, one of the beach access points, the ladder had kind of washed out, and we went down that way, so we had to kind of shimmy down to the ladder, which was broken, and get down to the beach. Lots of driftwood, like all the beaches there.
Hmm.
And they say that at high tide, you got to watch out for the driftwood because people will climb on it. But if there's water underneath it, the driftwood will turn and it has actually then crushed people. So
I believe it.
luckily we weren't there
Talk about
during
a
high
splinter.
tide.
Yeah.
There was a beautiful place at Kalaloch Beach called the Tree of Life. And so
Mm.
imagine this cliff, and the cliff has been eroded in one part. And so it goes down where there is no cliff. This tree is right in the middle of this eroded part of the cliffs. But instead of having roots below it, Crystal, the roots are off to the sides. So you can actually climb
Wow.
underneath the tree because you can see the bottom of the tree. The roots are going into the sides versus going down into the ground.
Huh.
It's this really, really weird, cool tree called the Tree of Life. Loved it.
Tree of life.
It was neat to see and neat to walk down the beach. Then we went north to a beach that Libby called her favorite beach. It was beautiful. It's called Ruby Beach. There's a nice little trail, quarter-mile trail that takes you down from the parking area to the beach. Lots of rock formations out there. Just a gorgeous setting for a beach. Nothing spectacular to report there. It was just
Mhm.
Ruby Beach was gorgeous. We also stopped off at, there's other beaches along Kalaloch, beach number 4, number 3, number 2, number 1, and you can stop at a couple of those. And when we did stop, there were these cool walking trails that took you down to the beach. And I would just, listen, just park your car
Mhm.
and get out and do some walking, which was super neat. But then we finally said goodbye to the beaches and made our way inland to another lake, like Crescent Lake. On
Okay.
the south side is called Lake Quinault, Quinalt. It's near
Let
the
me spell
Quinault
it like that. Hmm.
Indian Reservation. They name the areas of the park after the local tribes that have lived there.
Nice.
So
Love it.
the whole rainforest is the Hoh tribe. The Lake Quinault is by the Quinault tribe. And so the Indian reservation was right there, and there's lots of lodging. But I got to tell you, in the town of Quinault, right on the beautiful, beautiful lake. Imagine just another lake like Lake Crescent, but with this one has houses around it,
Imagine living
cottages.
there.
Oh, it'd be spectacular. But Lake Quinault Lodge, Teddy not Teddy, FDR had stayed there once, and in fact, they named the restaurant the Roosevelt Room is the name
Okay.
of the restaurant. But this lodge, Crystal, you go in. It was built in the 1920s. It had a roaring fire in the fireplace. It was beautiful. And I looked at this lodge. Frankly, if it were me and I had it to do over again, I would stay at this lodge
Mm.
overstaying at
Okay.
it was just a nicer place. And what's funny is I went to look at the price, and maybe it's because it's not along, I didn't go into any of the guest rooms. Maybe the guest rooms were worse. I don't know what the deal was, but it was only $150 a night. So you
Wow.
can save almost $100 a night by staying at a lodge that I thought was actually a better place.
Hmm.
There was some beautiful hikes along Lake Quinault. On the north side, if you go to the ranger station, there is a hike. It says two hikes on the map, but one hike is just a little tiny hike through a rainforest,
Define
and
tiny.
maybe a mile.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah, maybe a
agree. I
mile.
agree.
Yes, but it's also part of a longer hike. So we did that hike, but it loops into a longer hike called the Kessler Homestead hike, which takes you out to this
Okay.
homestead that looks like everything was closed, so I couldn't see any of the history on it, but it looks like the Kesslers had stayed there until maybe the
Ah,
1940s before it got turned over to the national park. There was a rusted out old car or old truck there. There was a couple barns, and you could see where they had kept livestock before. But on the way out there, you're going through this rainforest, and these trees, I'm going to post these in the clubhouse because Crystal, the
okay.
trees have all this moss all over them.
Hmm.
So the trees are these bright colored green. And even though it was the middle of winter and freezing ass cold, the bubbling brook that ran alongside the trail,
Mhm.
everything was green inside of the
Hmm.
the brook. Everything was alive. What was cool was we overhead as we were starting the trail, we actually saw a bald eagle way, way, way over
Wow.
top that was circling around. And he was way, way up there.
He's like, "Hey,
Late.
Baldy."
He's like, hey, you and I are friends. We must be
Are you
kindred
my
spirits.
dad?
We almost made it to the halfway point of the trail, which was this Kessler homestead. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, I hear this noise back behind me and to my left. And all I see is huge movement in the trees just over my head, maybe 10 feet over my head. The bald eagle flew. He had apparently parked and we spooked him as we were walking along because he decided to fly right over us. I've never had a bald eagle fly that close to me. This would have scared
Oh.
the hell out of you, Crystal, because his wingspan must have been 10
Yeah.
feet.
Oh,
He
wow.
was huge. He was absolutely huge
Wow.
with his
10
huge
feet?
wingspan.
I cannot imagine. He
When we
was
got back to the homestead, there was an older lady there hiking by herself, and Joseph Rosendo said this. You and I have said this before. Talk to people.
mhm.
So we talked to this woman. She goes, "Hey, on your way out, look to the right," which we had passed by this on the same road on the north side, but look off to the right. She said because there will be some Roosevelt elk there, and sure enough, as
Oh.
we're driving along, almost right next to the road, but hidden maybe 10 yards into the woods. But Cheryl and I have been so busy talking, we hadn't even
Yeah.
noticed it. There was a whole herd of elk right
Huh.
next. And these things are huge. I mean, they're just, they would demolish your car. Yeah. A lot of people think elk if they've never seen one and they think it's the size of a deer. This thing's
Right.
4 times the
Oh,
size of a deer.
really?
Oh, they're huge. They're just closer to a moose than
It's
than a
ginormous.
deer. Yeah. So on the south side of the lake near the lodge, there was another great trail that we took as I wind for home here called the Gatton Creek Trail. You just walk up some elevation about a mile to a beautiful bridge that goes over this stream and this series of little waterfalls. From afar, before you get there, you can see a bigger waterfall. You can't see it when you get to the bridge, but if you stop and look to your left as you're going up the trail, you'll see this wonderful, beautiful waterfall. And then we hiked back down, and along the shore of the lake, there was the biggest spruce tree on earth, 191 feet tall. And
Wow.
I don't know the girth, but the thing was just, it was a monster spruce tree that we got to see. There were some huge trees, a lot like if you've ever seen the redwoods or the sequoias. These weren't as big as the sequoias, but certainly these were as big as a lot of the redwoods that we saw. So we saw a few of these huge, huge, huge trees there. On the
That's
way home, the only
beautiful.
other thing I'll talk about, we decided to stop for pizza in Olympia because Olympia is a college town. It's also looked beautiful. We were there after dark and we were really kind of tired, but Cheryl had picked out this pizzeria downtown called Old School Pizzeria. Now, the
Okay.
bad news is we get downtown. I can't figure out the parking. They have two different, when you look up downtown parking, it says that the app you need to use is one app. It turns out they have contracts for different lots, Olympia, with two
Oh,
different parking
no.
apps. And neither one is Park Mobile and the other one is
Right.
Pay by Phone parking. I'm on Pay Mobile and I can't figure out what the hell's going on. Cheryl finally gets out of the car and goes, "I'm going to walk down to the restaurant and just go in and get a table." And I'm out there for another 25 minutes. She's like, "What the hell are you
Oh
doing?"
my goodness.
But then Crystal, I still couldn't figure it out. So then she's like, "Oh, there's free parking right next to the place." I go over there. It's not free parking. That the parking lots, street parking uses one app, parking lots use another app. It was
Oh
going to
my
cost me
goodness.
$10. I finally parked illegally and I haven't gotten a ticket yet.
Oh my
So, and I did get a
goodness.
ticket at the time. So I don't know if I'm getting a ticket or not, but
'Cause that was during
Olympic,
the week, right? It wasn't a Sunday. You flew out
no, it
on a
was on a
Monday.
Monday night.
Yeah.
Olympia, if there's anybody from Olympia, I can't figure out your damn parking system downtown. It was idiotic. It was truly idiotic, but it was a
It's
cool
DC.
downtown. The downtown looked alive. There were a lot of cool places. Old School Pizzeria, which is the pizza place we went to, was not cool.
Oh,
It was,
no.
and I think we might have been the only ones that didn't know that. I kind of should have known when we walked in. You walk up and you order your pizza, you can order a slice or a full pie. The pie was really greasy and thin. But we were so hungry, we ate the whole damn thing. That just the two of us
Hmm.
just swallowed it. They have a salad called a green salad. You know why they call it green salad? Because they throw a bunch.
Lettuce.
they throw a bunch of greens with nothing else
Oh my
into
goodness.
a bowl, and they hand it to you with ranch dressing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
oh,
I give Old School
sad.
Pizzeria a good old one or two. Now the cool thing was they were playing one of my favorite bands, the Pixies, when I walked in, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
And they have video games and there's graffiti all over the place. It's got a neat college town vibe.
well, that's
Maybe
what
I'm
it
too old and
is.
bougie.
Yeah, you're not the target audience. You have too
Uh,
much money for that.
Definitely.
Not
If,
that
if,
college kids don't have it, but it's like, all right, I gotta study. I need a pizza now, and I need to get back to studying. I
I
don't need
got
the
to say though, there's got to
ambiance.
be better pizza options than this one, even for the
See,
money. There's got to be
that's
better pizza
funny.
options. Just one little quick story too. Flying home the next day, it was a beautiful, clear day, and just like I had on the way in, I could see Mount
Nice.
Rainier. That was gorgeous. But Crystal, at one point, and I'll post this photo, I could see at one point Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, Mount St. Helen, and Mount Hood. I had four mountains
I've
in
been
my
to Mount
airplane
Hood.
view.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Mount Hood's really cool. And Mount
All
St. Helens
four.
is wild because you see this mountain without the top on it. You realize how much destruction that was, when
Wow.
Mount St. Helens blew back in the 1980s. But anyway, beautiful flight home. Best part about the flight home was we got upgraded. So I sat in first class on the
Oh,
way. And I could, you
you
know what?
both.
Flights in first class are so much easier. They
Highly
don't even feel,
recommend, right?
yeah, that didn't even feel like 4 hours. It seriously didn't feel like 4 hours. That seat is so big. I was literally just gonna start to watch us make our descent because they came on a couple times and told us we were descending. And I open up my window and the plane is literally touching down
Ugh,
like 5 seconds
like butter.
late. I'm like, how did we get down so fast? Yeah,
Cute. Didn't even
first
notice.
class makes it great. All right,
Of
that's my
course.
trip to
Oh,
Olympic National
applause,
Park.
applause. I will be going. Libby is going to take me to a park when I'm out there, in Arizona in about a month or so. So I'm very
She's
excited
taking you
about that.
to Saguaro National Park.
Oh, cool. I don't
It,
know the
it looks
name.
like it looks like Sagaro,
Cigarro.
but it's pronounced saguaro, and it
I'm
is a
ready.
park that is known for all those cactuses with the crazy arms and stuff.
Ah.
Great hiking trails out there. You might see a coyote
Oh,
in the wilderness there. Oh, they're cool. It's neat.
okay.
They're not going to come up to you, but
Okay.
you might see some fun
Cool.
desert park. You're going to love it, Crystal.
I'm excited. Very excited.
Do we
Well, that's
want
a
to?
great story.
Well, thank you. I feel like I
Thanks for
talked for 50,
going.
50 minutes nonstop. You got a couple things for us. Why don't I take a break, Crystal? You've got a couple things from our
Oh,
adventure hangout, the
yes.
clubhouse.
Totally forgot.
What are people talking about in the clubhouse? Let's say hi to people because I know that Cosette
Mm.
was talking about a trip, and so was
Roy.
it- oh yeah, Roy and Amanda. I think we're talking about trips.
Oh, okay. So Cosette is going to Japan. And what I liked about her post was that she said, and it was pretty funny, and I quote, her brother, a few days ago, my brother asked me if I wanted to join him and his wife on a 15-day trip to Japan. And they're going in March. And I'm like, I love a last minute trip because sometimes it's like, let me think about it. But then if you can't stop thinking about it, think you might want to go on that trip. So she's asking about Japan. So if anyone has tips for Tokyo, um, Hiroshima, I did not go to Hiroshima. I did go to Tokyo. So of course, I want to say this, and someone mentioned it under Roy's post too. The 100 yen store. I mention it. I talk about it probably too much, but it's a nice, cheap store with good quality stuff. So at least go in there to see. The 7-Elevens were popular. I also like to go. I don't eat McDonald's and Popeyes and stuff like that, but I always love to see what's on their menus because it's always like different stuff. Like, why do you have fish, at Popeyes or not fish, but
Yeah.
like shrimp or it's like some weird like tuna or something and I'm like, "Okay, why?" Or they have like croissants, like really really fancy like bakery pastries at different McDonald's.
We did
So,
that in Peru. Just walked in the
uh-huh.
McDonald's to see what was on the menu.
Yeah. And
Just
even
different sandwiches I'd never heard of before.
yeah, and then because one of them, I think it was a the TGI Fridays in Dubai, where the Michael Jordan figure they had with the basketball did not look like Michael Jordan at all. Like it was just like the uniform, like nothing looked like remotely close to legit. So that's another funny thing to say.
That's because it was really Kevin Durant, and you didn't realize.
No, was not. It didn't even resemble a human. Like I don't know what that sculptor was doing. But yeah, so
W well, and a
Cosette.
yeah, and a
Cosette.
question, well, and Cosette, I think, said that she wanted to go north, right? And she said
Yes.
she's going to Hiroshima, which is south of Tokyo, and she also said she wants to avoid big cities. Way up north, a place I've always wanted to go is Sapporo. I just
Oh.
think it's beautiful. It's snowy. It has much more of a northern climate feel that I really like. My daughter said one thing. I've never been there,
Oh,
so I don't
wait,
know.
she
But my
lived
daughter
there.
lived there, and the one thing she said, Cosette, that was a big one, which is don't talk on the trains. Like often they can tell groups of
Too
Americans
loud.
because
Yeah, we're
they're
always too loud.
loud on the train. And she's like, nobody talks on the train. You do not talk on the train. And don't litter anywhere
Oh,
either.
yeah, no. Yeah. 'Cause I saw a guy with a beer can, smashed in his back pocket, and I'm like, "Is he gonna carry that around?" And our tour guide was like, "Yes." And you'll notice because there's no garbage cans because of there was attack years ago, and so there aren't any, so you really have to work hard to find a garbage can because they had bombs inside of the garbage cans and they
Wow.
all exploded
Yuck.
at the same time. But, yeah, but people carry their trash, like, that's awesome.
Little towns, if she is going to be south going toward Hiroshima, my daughter was in a town that had a historic old district called Kirishiki. I know that old town, they have gondola rides down through the waterways.
Nice.
And it's this nice ancient place that we really wanted to go to, but COVID hit when she was there, so we didn't go. But
Mm.
lots of tips if people want to join in. They just join our Facebook group, Stacking Adventures Club.
Yes, the clubhouse. And then Roy is going to Dubai, which I loved. I would definitely recommend the mall because they have a ski resort inside of the mall.
That's crazy.
But you have to go when they open. Don't go in the afternoon, it's too late because the beauty of waking up early and getting there when they opened was we did everything. So when we were rounding out the last like slope and activity, the lines to get in and the lines to do stuff were crazy long. So that's one of my tips. And it was cool because you can go to the sand, to the desert and snow in the same day. So do that the Jeep, the desert tour, that was really cool because they let out the air of the tires so they can really, like, burn rubber and do donuts and all that
Oh,
crazy
that's
stuff
fabulous.
in the sand, and then you get to ride the camels, and then there's this, like, oasis where ours had a dinner included, so there was this dinner and, um,
Oh, neat.
this guy and this twirling like, they have these light up twirling dress skirt things, and it's a LED show from a skirt, a twirling, but you'll have to see it. But it was a lot of cool entertainment, like traditional dancing and stuff. The dollar was really strong there when I went, so I went souvenir crazy as usual.
My friend Robert Niles from Theme Park Insider, he helps us in Stacking Benjamins kick off the summer season by telling us, how to get the most out of theme parks. And he actually turned me on to Ferrari World,
Oh,
which is in
yes.
Dubai. I would.
Abu
Did you
Dhabi,
see it?
yeah.
Could you see it?
Yes, yes. I didn't go in to drive the cars, but I bought some souvenirs from right outside, but you can see a lot of it even
Oh,
without
that is.
paying to
That's in
go
Abu Dhabi.
inside. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was also a fun I forgot about Ferrari World.
Yeah,
Buy
the
some cool
world's
stuff.
fastest roller coaster, Formula Rosa, is there. So I don't know if Abu Dhabi's going to make it to your trip, Roy, but if so, if you like race cars like I do, ride the
Yeah, it's
fastest
cool to
roller
see.
coaster in the world.
That was definitely a cool place to see. He's also going to Big Word.
Oh, Mauritius,
Yes, there we go.
yes.
It looks beautiful off the Indian Ocean, East Coast.
I
I looked
saw
it
an
up.
ad for Mauritius, which
East
was
Africa.
yeah, and they want people to settle there. If I'm thinking of the right place, and I
Really?
think that I am,
Could
uh,
be.
you are not allowed. You have to open a bank account with a bunch of money. They want your money, right? So they want you to settle there and enjoy yourself. You're
Hmm.
also not allowed to work while you're there, because
Beautiful.
yeah, they want you to not work. They want you to enjoy yourself, and they want you to
Ah,
bring your cash and settle there. So there, and they have, and it's like a special program where you can, I believe, settle there. If I'm thinking about the right place, and
sign me
I
up.
think I am. Yeah. So let's go stay there. But that
Let's look
looks
into
very
that.
exotic. I can't wait. Maybe Roy, when you get back from there, we'd love to hear about it.
Right. Yeah. But it sounds amazing. All right. Please join our group. We will. We're on it for the letting people in.
Yeah, yeah. If this is definitely I feel bad for Cosette because she said, "Hey, I've been waiting," and I was in Seattle. You've had
My
Crystal works for the
brain is
government.
scatterbrained.
Crystal works for the government. You can imagine what that's like right now. There's a lot of circus stuff going on there. So between the two of us, this is obviously something we do for fun that we both love. So we will definitely approve you. But the bad news is we have to do that because as the group gets
Right.
bigger, there's so many spammers. And I'm in some groups where it's just a spammer every
Right.
other
It's
minute.
just spam central, and it's
Ugh,
like, yeah, no.
no, drives you
What's
crazy.
the
So, but
point?
we will approve you. But we, I promise we'll get there. But especially if it's at a time when we're traveling, it's very
Yeah.
difficult.
But thanks
All
for
right.
saying something like, "Hey, let me in." It's like, "Oh yeah, let me in.
Yeah, I'm
Let me
glad
in.
she
Let me
finally
in.
said something in
Let
the
us
Stacking
out. Let us
Benjamins.
out." From Clue.
Yes. All right, we got the music coming up, Crystal.
Oh
So it's
yeah.
time for the gear of the day. Your clue was that the gear is something that you always forget.
Yep.
So at the airport, they charge you a bunch of money. I said it was your phone charger.
Wrong.
I was
You
wrong.
were wrong. It's the travel neck pillow.
The travel. Oh my! I hate the travel neck
You
pillow.
do?
I
I
do.
love I've slept on mine before at home.
Really? I
Like on
can
the
never sleep with
couch?
that thing. That thing does
Really?
not work. Oh, it's horrible.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
You don't have it even sideways when you have it around your neck this way?
I got one time, and
I have like 6 and I
and
can't
it sucks
find
so
any.
bad.
Huh.
And what's funny is Crystal doesn't have a lot of stuff. I've known Crystal for a long
Right.
time.
I have a
How you
studio.
can't find it and you don't have very much stuff is
And it's a big orange one. It's like it's shape. It's a stuffed animal shape too. I got it at FinCon.
the last time that we traveled internationally. Well, maybe not the last time. We went to Egypt and Jordan. Cheryl bought this one that looks like a scarf. It kind of wraps around you like a scarf. And so you
Oh,
can pop it up on one side or pop it on the other. That thing, when we got off the plane, she literally threw in the trash.
darn it. I've left them on the shuttle going to the airport. Like it's come so close a lot of times.
I
And
thought
I'm
for sure it was
like,
a phone charger.
no, 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 no.
How about that? Well,
Womp womp.
maybe coming up in the future. Who knows?
That'll be
All
yours.
right. Crystal, what were your big takeaways from my
Oh
adventure in
man. All of it. No, just kidding.
Olympic?
I liked that you like that hotel, the one, well, the lodge had the option of no Wi-Fi and also of the beaches. I would like to do the walking of the beaches because you saw a lot of beaches in January. Like people don't think how beautiful the beaches are in January
It
too.
was so great. Nothing was crowded. Obviously, you weren't swimming, you
Yeah.
weren't going in the water, but we had the beach to ourselves. Maybe at the most, there were 8 to 10 people out on the beach. This is incredible. Yeah, I love going in the off season.
Me too.
Beautiful. All right,
Me
that's going to do it for today. Next week, you're going to have to see what we talk
too.
about next week. I think that's going to do it for today. She's Crystal.
And I'm Joe.
Keep on adventuring, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
All right. You know what? And I didn't see if anybody's hanging out with us.
I was checking the chat. I didn't see anything. It's so windy. I'm surprised you can't hear the wind.
Yeah, I can't.
No.
Oh, my internet is just chugging. It's
Hmm.
slow. All right. Awesome, everybody. We'll see you guys later.
Bye. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for joining in.
All right.
Bye.
Bam. Another one bites the dust.
Another one bites the dust in your